Hi, my name is Carolina. Thanks for attending this virtual event and story time organized by Word Up Community Bookshop and Dominican Writers Association. If you don't know, Word Up is a bookshop and art space run by local residents, many of whom are volunteers. We started as a 1-month-long pop-up shop in 2011, then stuck around due to overwhelming community demand. This past June, we celebrated our 10th birthday. We can be found at 2113 Amsterdam Avenue at the corner of 165th Street in Washington Heights, New York. We host events for all ages and sell used and new books in English and Spanish. So check us out at wordupbooks.com to shop and see other virtual events and outdoor events that we have. We're open Tuesday through Friday, 12 to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 11 to 5 p.m. And now I'll pass it on to Angie Abreu from Dominican Writers Association.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Angie Abreu, and I am the founder of Dominican Writers Association. And part of the work that we do is provide resources and support Dominican writers here in the diaspora mainly. And today I have the pleasure of facilitating this conversation with Jasmine Mendez, who is the author of Josefina's Habichuelas. Jasmine is an MFA graduate of the Rainier Writers Workshop at Pacific Lutheran University. She is a poet, a writer, and educator. She is the author of 2 multi-genre memoirs, including the award-winning YA memoir, Island of Dreams. Josefina's Habichuelas, published by Arte Público Press, is her debut picture book. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Carolina. Word Up Bookstore, Dominican Writers. You all have been so supportive of me and my work for so very long, and I'm very appreciative. Gracias a todos por su apoyo hoy y siempre. I'm just really excited to be sharing this book with you all on my birthday. And
happy birthday.
Thank you. Welcome. I see my cousins. Hola, primas. So I'm gonna get emotional. So before I do, I'm just gonna jump into the reading. Happy to take questions afterwards and be in conversation with you all. So again, gracias. Thank you for having me. And adelante, right? So thank you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so we can, those of you that maybe don't have the book yet, can enjoy the illustrations and see the book live here. So Josefina's Habichuelas, Las Habichuelas de Josefina. So I'll read it once in English and then I'll read it in Spanish. Written by me and illustrations by Flor de Vita, which actually she and I are hoping to get together and do some kind of Instagram live stream conversation or reading very soon, because I feel like illustrators definitely also need their credit when it comes to picture books and have time to share their inspiration for the illustrations. So gracias a todos. And here we go. I can get this to work. All right. Josefina loved to eat sweets. She loved warm chocolate chip cookies out of the oven. She loved cupcakes and candy, but mommy wouldn't let her eat them all the time because sugar is bad for your teeth. One night, Josefina was eating a piece of flan. Mommy said, Lent is coming. Lent is the time before Easter, when some people choose to fast from foods they enjoy. This helps them reflect on their actions and brings them closer to God. This year, I would like you to give up sugary food. What? How long is Lent? 40 days and 40 nights. I can't give up sweets for that long, Josefina screeched. What if we do it together? Okay, but it won't be easy. When do I have to start? Asked Josefina nervously. Tomorrow. So enjoy that piece of flan because it's the last dessert you will have for a while. Josefina gobbled up her slice of flan in one big bite. For the next few weeks, Josefina did not eat sweets. At home, it was easy because mommy gave her fruit instead. It was harder at school though. At lunch, her friends ate cookies, candy, and cupcakes. They always wanted to share with her, and Josefina always had to say no. Mommy, fasting is hard, said Josefina after dinner one night. I know, mommy said, but there are many lessons you can learn from fasting. Like what? Well, you are learning to set goals and overcome obstacles. In the end, your reward will be great. I get a reward? Yes, you will get habichuelas con dulce, your favorite dessert on Good Friday, right before Easter Sunday. Josefina's eyes lit up. Habichuelas con dulce? Yummy! But mommy, why do we only eat them on Easter? It's tradition, mija, what we've always done. Now you get to carry the tradition on. What do you mean? This year, because you're working so hard to achieve your goal, I'm going to teach you how to make the sweet cream beans dessert. Really? Thank you. Josefina knew this was a big deal. Mommy usually said she was too young to go near the stove. Learning how to make the dessert meant she was growing up. That Thursday night, Josefina and Mommy started to prepare. First, they separated and washed the red beans. Then they poured the beans into a giant bowl. Click, clack. They filled the bowl with warm water. Swish, swish. Josefina buried her hands in the bowl and swirled the beans around. They felt like tiny pebbles in her fingers. Mommy drained the beans, filled the bowl with water again. She said, now we have to soak the beans overnight. The next day, Josefina woke up, rushed to the kitchen and asked, have the beans finished soaking yet? Yes, now we have to boil them, Mommy said. Josefina stood in the kitchen, watching the pot on the stove. Mija, a watched pot never boils. Go play. I'll call you when it's time. Josefina didn't move. She wanted to be there for every single moment. Then the doorbell rang, and in came Tia Yesenia, Tia Xiomara, and Abuela, carrying large bags of groceries. Hola, Abuela said as she hugged Josefina. Bendición, Abuela. Can you believe I'm helping to make the habichuelas con dulce this year? And I know they're going to be delicious because I haven't had any sweets in a long time. Can you believe I gave up eating sugar for 40 days and 40 nights? I do believe it. And because of that, these habichuelas are going to taste even sweeter. You're making them with so much love. In the kitchen, Mommy turned on some merengue music and they danced. Shake, shake, shake. Nutmeg, vanilla, cinnamon, and salt, said Tia Xiomara, shaking out the ingredients in the pot. Chop, chop, chop. Here come the sweet potatoes, said Tia Yesenia, slicing and dicing to the beat of the drums. Tap, tap, tap. We can't forget the milk, evaporated, condensed, and coconut, Mommy said, tapping the cans on the counter. Abuela lowered the music and began telling a story. When I was a girl on the island, we didn't have a stove inside the house. We cooked our beans over a large fire outside on a big stove called a fogón. And we stirred our beans up with sticks. Really use sticks? Asked Josefina. We did, Abuela said. By now, the pot on the stove was bubbling and gurgling loudly. Blurp, blurp. Hot water hissed and splashed. Steam rose up to the ceiling. Are the beans ready yet? Josefina asked. Mommy spooned a few beans and squeezed one. It was mushy between her fingers. Yes, now we let them cool and put them in the blender. Once the beans were cooled, blended, and put back into the pot, Mommy and Josefina waited for them to boil again. Mommy said as she smelled the beans. This reminds me of Papa's hugs and how he would carry me on his lap and feed me habichuelas on Easter Sunday. Josefina inhaled the sweet smell and said, this reminds me of all the desserts in all the world that I haven't eaten in almost 40 days and 40 nights. Everyone laughed. Josefina added the sweet potatoes, raisins, and salt. The aroma of cinnamon and sugar swirled up from the pot and perfumed the air. She said, now it smells like love and happiness in here. Abuela stirred the beans, took a taste, and said, they are done. In fact, it's the best pot of habichuelas con dulce I've tasted in all my life. Abuela winked at Josefina. Josefina blushed. At dinner, Josefina's cousins, aunts, uncles, and friends came over to enjoy Josefina's sweet beans. Tia Xiomara and Tia Yesenia gave everyone cassava bread and milk cookies. Everyone but Josefina began to eat. After a few bites, Papi looked up from his bowl and asked, who made these habichuelas con dulce? It is delicious. I can taste the love. Josefina stood up, took a bow, and said, I made it with mommy, abuela, and my aunts. That's wonderful. Where's your bowl? Aren't you going to eat any? No, I have to wait until Easter Sunday when my fasting is over. But that's okay, because I like my habichuelas con dulce served cold. That night, almost everyone had a second serving of Josefina's habichuelas. And as the room filled with music and laughter, and the air smelled of sugar and spice, Josefina didn't feel sad that she wasn't enjoying her dessert. Her heart was filled with joy because she saw how happy everyone else was eating the habichuelas she had made with love. And that was the sweetest feeling of all. Thank you. I don't know if you want to do a few questions now and then do it in Spanish, or if you want me just to jump right in. What do you think?
I mean, I have tons of questions, but we want the audience to ask you questions. Come on, everybody.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you all enjoyed this story as I did, as a Dominican little girl who grew up in my family with a fogón. I have a burn on my arm from a fogón because my grandmother in the campo in Puerto Plata, that's how she cooked. And I always enjoyed watching my grandmother making all her meals. So those are fond memories. And to see that in a book, you know, it just feels, I don't know. I got emotional because I was also thinking, Jasmine, you know, that I could count with one hand how many of our books, even Dominican books, have brown kids on the cover.
Right. That was very important to me. Yes.
And to see that Josefina is a brown girl and so is her mom, and she had the frilly Dominican dresses. Like, yeah. Como te digo, plasmate nuestra, you know, our childhood. Into this story with
Lo único que le faltaba was a picture of like her in the little socks with the lace.
Yes.
The little white socks.
Everything had lace, from our underwear, like the back of our underwear had lace.
It was so itchy.
I remember my mom used to send those to me, and then the hair
the
ribbons
and the ribbons. Yeah.
Everything. We were obsessed with lace during that time.
I know.
So,
credit goes to the illustrator, because she did ask. She's like, "How do you want the character?" She, asked a few questions, and then she just ran with it, and I think she did her
childhood pictures.
I did it, but I think she did look up some stuff. So and she sent me kind of the, the dummies, and she kind of gave me a sense of what it looked like, and I was like, yes, that's it. And I love Josefina's hair, and the, how her tias all look different, and they're different shades of brown, and I love it. And so yeah.
Carmen is asking, how do you decide on the beautiful name Josefina?
That's a wonderful question. So now that I'm working more in fiction, I have decided that I want to honor and other Dominican women writers and artists and things like that. And so all the names in the book actually come from that. So Josefina is an homage to Josefina Baez, the performer, the New Yorker.
Does she know that though?
I don't think so. I don't really know her. I know her work, but I don't think she even knows like.
Can you send her a copy of the book?
I can. And I also am huge on alliteration. And so I was like, Josefina is the perfect name, because even though it starts with a J, you have the H sound, Josefina's habichuelas. Tia Xiomara is an homage to the poet X, Elizabeth Acevedo's book. And Yesenia is an homage to Yesenia Montilla, a very dear friend of mine, poet from New
Homage
York.
to the many Dominican women who have
Yes.
inspired your writing.
Yes, yes.
That's beautiful. Wow. That's
Yeah,
so
that's where
great.
it comes from.
Judy Fernandez is asking, how do you come up with the idea of Josefina's Habichuelas?
Yeah, so I several things came up. I had written a couple of books. I had pitched them to Arte Público. They were like a little lukewarm. So I did some more reading in their kids catalog and kind of saw how what they were drawn to, right? They really want stories that focus on specific, Latin American cultures and things that maybe aren't as well known. And so I started thinking, what is a story? What is something that's very specific to Dominican culture that I, as a kid, would have wanted to learn more about, or that would have been awesome to see in a book? And I know many of you might know the picture book Too Many Tamales. At least we know it here in Texas, right? It's and so it's a very popular book around Christmas time. And there are a few other books like that really focus on Mexican American culture and Mexican culture, and that have food in them. And I was like, wow, I should write something related to Dominican food and culture. And so specifically, habichuelas con dulce was like the one thing that I was like, I don't think any other Latin American culture makes this dish, and I love sweets. So I'm like upset. And even though, like diabetes runs in my family and other things, I love sugar. And so I thought, wow, wouldn't it be a great sort of little story to kind of to bring light to that, right? To share this part of our culture with other people. And it was tricky though, because I asked at least 10 different Dominicans, both in my family and outside, like, ¿de dónde vienen las habichuelas con dulce? Porque es tradición. We don't know. We
just passed down.
It's just what it is. Porque así son las cosas.
Yes,
like nobody.
Yes. We don't question, we don't question it. People, and then the next generation, your parents just assume that you're gonna pick up the tradition, and then when you start questioning, they're like, "What?" I'm like, why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this? ¿De dónde vino? Like, ¿por qué? And that's why, originally the story was going to be kind of like where it came from and to give more information about the history of it. But girl, I couldn't find no information. Nobody had any.
You didn't find any? Not even.
So yeah. When I researched it online, the closest thing was saying that they think it was like possibly like a Turkish influence, because there are some like a Turkish dessert that uses beans and has like a sweet, like custardy taste to it. It's not the exact same recipe, because we do what we want. I'm sure we switched it up, but yeah, they think that there was somehow some kind of European other kind of dish, because the Turkish dish is also eaten during that time, during Easter, and so they kind of think it was like an amalgamation of different like European cultures brought over.
I could definitely see how there was an immigrant European who came to DR and started doing their own dish, and of course we put a spin on it. We remixed it. I could totally see that a Dominican walking into the kitchen and be like, no, it's a
listen, the last time I went to the DR and found out there was like sushi with plátanos in them, I was like, what is happening?
Oh,
what
yeah,
are we doing?
We have that. Yeah, we have that here in Washington Heights. We have Mama Sushi. All their sushi is Dominican infused.
I was like, why are there maduros in my sushi?
Yes, yes, girl. We don't leave other people's stuff alone. We got to put our Dominicanness into it. That's wonderful. Carmen is saying that her children love pointing out the book characters that looks like them and their skin shade. She loves the attention to detail with the skin tones.
Thank you, Cameron. Yes.
It's amazing that we're having this conversation about skin tones when that shouldn't even be a conversation.
It shouldn't be I know. Yeah, it shouldn't. It should be the norm. It should be standard. There should be thousands of books, right, on the shelves with people who look like us and share our hair texture and all the things. So, but it,
So Jasmine, I wanted to ask you, you published this book with a Latino press.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever pitch a story like this to traditional publishers, the big five?
Yeah, no, I hadn't yet. So at that point, I had to go publish my second book, which is an adult memoir, Night Blooming Jasmine. And I hadn't really considered getting into children's books until I had my daughter, really, not picture books anyway. And so I immediately thought of them because I knew what I wanted to write about was going to be based on my culture, my heritage, and I wanted somebody that a publisher that would like honor that and be respectful of that, you know, because I'd heard some things, you know, around the way. And I think that there's still, this was in 2019 when I submitted the book, and the boom, I would say, of like Latinx literature was kind of just, we were starting to see it, but it hadn't really kind of exploded in the way it has, I think, in the last like 2 years or so. And so I wanted it, I pitched it to them first. So I didn't have an agent when I submitted this book to Arte Público at the time. I didn't really hadn't thought that big necessarily, right? Arte Público is a great publisher, right? Obviously not one of the top, the big five, but I did know that whenever I was ready to take that step, that I wanted somebody that would be culturally sensitive, aware, respectful, that would, you know, honor what I wanted this book to do and to be. So at the time I hadn't yet, but I have, you know, I do know of other folks that have and have received not so great reactions, or just kind of had challenging experiences.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because through our organization, we get so many writers who do pitch these kind of stories to, you know, the big five, and they come back so defeated and feeling like, you know, where am I going to find a home for this story, because no one understands it, right? Or they don't see how they don't see the mass appeal. They don't see how their other folks outside of our culture is going to, you know, maybe enjoy reading this book or find any interest in reading their book, or I don't know. So just a plethora of things that, you know, just makes our writers feel like our stories don't matter. Right. But our stories do matter, because you just got a book deal with Dial Books.
Yes, I did. Deal,
on a book that went to auction. So, you know, when I read those things, I get emotional for you guys, and I'm sitting behind my phone screen crying. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, because, you know, a lot of my advocacy is for this. We are so tired of seeing that our stories don't get published, and that it's such a difficult journey to get them published, right? But when things like this happen, we get so,
and I was surprised and excited and all of the things, in particular for that story, because not only is she Dominican and she's in Texas, and she has a disability, you know, like there's all these layers of sort of marginalization that people often are like, that's not going to sell, nobody wants that, you know, what is that story? And so the fact that it's been received already, it's not even out yet, and it's been received so well, and people are excited, it's been great. It's been refreshing, because I know that has not always been the case, is not always the case. And so it's just, I'm still kind of speechless. I'm still like, this is happening. Is this happening?
I'm pretty sure. So, you know, you aside from Luz Maria Mac are the two Dominicans that received such wonderful news through Publishers Weekly this week, because Luz Maria also is having her book published. The name escaped me. I think it's called Under the Plátano Tree, or maybe I'm mixing it with another title, but it's about plátanos.
Love it.
Right.
Well, that was my other choice. It was either going to be habichuelas con dulce or plátanos. I was like,
or plátanos, right?
Or sancocho. I was like, do I want a sancocho story? I don't know.
Right. When I see stories like that, I get so excited for both of you. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. This is, you know, I spoke to Luz. She's like, we're going to make this book launch huge. You know, I wish we would have had this in person, because we would have had, we would have invited the lady from 181st Street to cater the event, because she does habichuela con dulce, and that's where everybody goes. So the lady on 181st Street. So if any of you are in Washington Heights, just tell her, you know, somebody wrote this book about habichuela con dulce, and they sent me over here. So we're giving the lady some promo. Go buy.
Does she make them all year? Are they available all year?
Wow. Mostly during the winter. Yes.
Let's say that's commitment. I made habichuelas like twice, and I'm like, this is work.
No, that's her business. That's her side gig. This is her employment. She sells habichuela con
dulce. I love it.
On 181st. So we appreciate that. Do we have any more questions? Don't let me ask all the questions, everyone. come on. This is a wonderful and beautiful book. Talk to us about your process with the illustrator. Give us a little.
So it was, the publisher Arte Público, they sort of have a roster of illustrators that they come back to and use fairly often. But it was in the early stages, it was fairly minimal. She read the manuscript, had a couple questions. She said, kind of, what do you want the characters to look like? And I was like, Afro-Dominican. Like, I was like, Black Dominican. Like, I want Josefina to be a Black Dominican
You know
girl.
what that was, though? Because sometimes you have folks that are like, what?
Yeah, so I did send, I think I did actually send like photos of my family, if I'm not mistaken. It was a couple years ago. So I think I sent a few photos, and I had to Google some other images of just like Dominican families, and was like, look, there's like every shade of brown here. So
Right.
so do something like this, and so I was clear, kind of what I wanted, the characters in the book to look like. And then, like I said, she had sent a few samples of things, and I immediately was like, yes, I love Josefina. Oh my God, I want to I wish she was real. I could take her with me. Like, I want to hang out with her. She's so adorable. So it was fairly minimal in that regard, because she did such a great job. Flor de Vita did such a great job just initially, that I didn't feel like I had to kind of really micromanage anything or go back and have things changed too much. Fell in love with the abuela. I was like, oh my God, she looks like both of my abuelas, like mixed into one.
All the tias fit into all the tias in the book fit into my family. So
me too. Me too. So I love that.
And the dad looks like my dad. So.
Same. When I saw it, I think that's kind of how she created it, right? She saw some of my family photos and was like, okay, I kind of got the idea of what we're looking for here. And actually, just the other day, my best friend Cameron, she's online, she got me, I haven't yet read it, but it's in my shelf back there, If Dominican Were a Color, which I'm excited to read also, because I feel like that also represents so much of the like diversity and beauty of our culture.
Yes. It's a gorgeous book. It's a gorgeous book. What about translations? Because I know when I first read the book, I think I asked you something about the translation. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think I asked you if the translator was Dominican, because we've had so many Dominican authors have, translators from other countries who they have to kind of battle out their word choices, because in every country Spanish is spoken differently, and they might not be familiar with the words we use. And tell you, okay, we're not including that. What is this, right?
Right. Yeah, and I was a little nervous about that, but that's again another reason why I think it was important to me to also do the habichuelas con dulce story, because I've lived in Texas for over 20 years, and I've had to adjust and not call habichuelas. They're frijoles when I go out to eat, right? So I was like, no, this book is going to use the word habichuelas, whether I don't care who likes it or not, because this is my word. This is our word. So the translator is not Dominican. They were also chosen by Arte Público. I'm not 100% sure of their origin, but we were pretty. Arte Público was wonderful in that way, because Gabby, the editor, sent me the manuscript, the translated version, ahead of time. And she said, please look over this closely. I want to be sure that we are honoring like Dominican like dialect and language, and that it's not, that we're using the words that your people would use, right? And I think there were a couple of exceptions, in the sense just to kind of make it so that it was still a little more open to other, folks. But for the most part, there were a few words in particular, like cupcakes. I think I even asked on like Facebook, like, how did Dominicans say cupcakes?
Yeah, how do you say cupcakes?
Cupcakes, right?
Right, we say
cupcakes. And so you'll see that in the book. It's literally cupcakes in the Spanish translation. Although there was a couple of there's like one or two other words that I think were sometimes used. And then in the first time I saw the translation, they actually had, unless habichuelas con dulce was like the full word, habichuelas con dulce, any other times they referred to habichuelas, it was frijoles. And I was like, nope. I was like, I went through it and was like, we don't call habichuelas frijoles, like we just don't. And so I think there was one place that now, like, I think we missed it. So the next time we do the print run, but it was in the recipe that's translated. I think one time Lupe caught it. My husband's like, they said frijoles. I was like, dang it, I didn't catch the one frijoles. It's in there.
Yeah, you don't want a frijol to
no. And so there were a few
somewhere in there.
Yeah. So so I was very particular about that. And like I said, the editors were very open to that, and they amenable and changed the things. And I was like, we don't really say it like this. And I think there were a couple of phrases that I still feel like I'm not sure. I wasn't 100% sure how we would translate it. So I just kind of left it. Like, I think like Josefina winked. I think we say le picó un ojo, right? Like that's what we would say. And I think I left it as the more formal translation of like le gruñón. Y'all will see. Like it's a little bit more formal than like the Dominican way.
But I was just like, what does that mean? What does gruñón?
Yeah, it's to wink. Yeah, picó el ojo. Right. So but I think because at the moment I was just like, I'm not sure. Well, then I sent it to my mom too. I was like, Mommy, lee la traducción. A ver, dime si, if there's anything that like sticks out at you as like Dominicans definitely don't say that, you know what I mean? So, but overall she gave me a little feedback. And so we sent that. I think counter was another word. I was like, how do you say a counter? I've always just said a counter de la cocina.
The count. Yeah. The counter.
Like kitchen counter, So there were a couple of specific things like that that we kind of went back and forth on.
I'm going to ask my mom.
I think we translated to maceta. You call that. Yeah. So they were really amenable and just very flexible with regard to the translation, which I really appreciated.
That's nice. So it seems that you had a very pleasant process in publishing your book. That's wonderful.
I did.
I'm glad to hear that. Oh, maceta. Judy Fernandez, maceta. Do we use that? Maceta?
I think that's what we ended up going with in the book, but I feel like I'd never heard that, or we just hadn't. It wasn't just living in America for so long. We just kind of make up our own.
Maceta is like related to like a tree, something agricultural, like a tree or part of a tree.
Oh, maceta. So there is a maceta of like where it's like a plant. I have seen that too. Like
Judy, I'm from Santiago. That is, I was born in Santiago. That is not a Santiago word. But you know what? Maybe it's because I've never used it in that context. So I will definitely ask my Santiago family members if they use that word. But maceta. Wow, for counter. I'm gonna ask my mom, what does she call that? Because now I'm gonna be like, Mami, ¿qué tú llamas esa parte en la cocina? Donde tú pones la cosa, like, no la mesa, like, what do you call that?
What do you call that? I know. Listen, in my house is el counter.
La vaina esa, yeah. Judy said, la vaina esa, ¿qué es lo que tú llamas esa vaina? That's exactly how that conversation is going to go, Judy. A bunch of us need to go ask our parents what we call counters and let Jasmine know.
Yeah, please do. And then earlier, Judy asked, I know she said if I had any more picture books in the work. There is the possibility of one. I just sent it to my agent, so we'll see what she says. I can't really talk about it, but this one it'll be a little more historical. So I'm looking forward to, fingers crossed, that somebody likes it and picks it up. And it'll also be more on the poetic side, the way that it is now. I'm leaning into my poetic side a little more and less narrative. So.
Now, Jasmine, you are one of the few writers that have touched in practically every genre. You have a poetry book, you have this picture book. Now you're about to publish a middle grade in 2023. You have your memoir, right? Which was, I think it was, I have it over here actually, because I went at one point and bought all your books.
There's only 3 right now.
Jasmine has, I was like, Jasmine has a memoir. And yeah, you have written in ¿Qué te falta? Young adult.
So that there's a YA
adult novel
memoir. Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever write an adult novel. That seems like hard. So that just seems like a lot. I don't know. Never say never, because I never thought I would write like a picture book, and here I am. So,
and a playwright. Yes, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Frances. Yes, yes, because your play, City of Authors, I'm like, wait, how am I gonna make it to, when is it? It's Chicago, is it, that it's going to be
No,
showing?
it's going to be in Portland, Oregon. We're
Portland.
hopefully going to share it in a couple other cities, but that's still kind of, we're talking about it.
Oh yeah,
Hopefully
definitely share,
somebody
because I
wants it.
said I want to make it to one of those.
Yeah.
Just by listening to you reading, I was like, Jasmine sounds like she has a theater background.
I do. Yeah,
You do.
it's where I started, actually. Theater was my first art form, my first love. I did theater since at the beginning at the age of 12 through college. And then I stepped away because it was just work and life and health and all the reasons. But also, again, they weren't producing plays that with people that looked like me and sounded like me and had my background and my stories. And so I was like, what am I doing? Like, what's happening? Like, I'm tired of these same plays that just center whiteness. And so I was like, I'm gonna write my own things. And I didn't really get into playwriting until recently, and that's what brought me back to the theater. Because I left the theater for over a decade and was just like, I'm gonna write poetry. I'm gonna be my own storyteller, and I can do spoken word, I can slam, I can be on the stage telling my stories, right? In that way. But yeah, my first foray into storytelling was through theater. I performed in A Raisin in the Sun, lots of kids shows around town, Yerma for colored girls. I did a lot of things in college and in high school. And then just kind of, the theater was my first big, real heartbreak. It broke my heart because it just wasn't inclusive, still really isn't. And so that's what led me into taking my writing more seriously, because I've always needed an artistic outlet. And so writing became that for me. But yeah, I love storytelling, both orally and on the page. And so I do have a theater background.
Well,
Which I forget that people don't know. Like, I'm like, yeah, I was in theater. And I'm like, oh, a lot of people don't know me as an actress.
Thankfully, we have so many Latinos that are now advocating for their own spaces, right? We have the Latinx Playwright Circle.
Love
where
them.
Guadalis del Carmen, who's a Dominican playwright from Chicago, is, I believe she's on their board. We have the Dominican Artist Collective now that is, I lose count of how many Dominican playwrights and actors are part of that collective. So, I'm a huge advocate of creating your own space. Don't wait for anyone else to give you approval and validate who you are or your stories. Just go in there, abre la puerta and be like, ya llegué. El que quiera acompañarme, bienvenido. Y el que no quiera, siga su camino. But I think that is definitely so important. Does anyone else have questions in here? Do we have any Facebook questions, Carolina? I'm not actually on the Facebook page. But I don't know if you are.
Yes, I'm happy to read it in Spanish. Yes. I know, before we run out of time. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, aquí vamos entonces. Thank you all for the questions. It's been so much fun. All right, so voy a compartir otra vez. Ahí vamos. Okay. Las habichuelas de Josefina. Okay. A Josefina le encantaba comer dulces. Le encantaban las galletas de chocolate recién salidas del horno. Le encantaban los bizcochitos y los dulces. Pero mami no dejaba que ella los comiera todo el tiempo, porque azúcar es malo para tus dientes. Una noche Josefina estaba comiendo un pedazo de flan. Mami dijo, ya viene la cuaresma. La cuaresma es el tiempo antes de la Pascua, cuando algunas personas dejan de comer las comidas que disfrutan. Esto les ayuda a reflexionar sobre sus acciones y acercarlos a Dios. Este año quiero que renuncies a la comida dulce. ¿Qué? ¿Cuánto dura la cuaresma? 40 días y 40 noches. No puedo renunciar a los dulces por tanto tiempo, gritó Josefina. ¿Y si los hacemos juntas? Está bien, pero no va a ser fácil. ¿Cuándo empiezo? Preguntó Josefina, nerviosa. Mañana. Así que disfruta ese flan, porque es el último postre que vas a comer por un buen tiempo. Josefina devoró su tajada de flan de una mordida. Josefina no comió dulces en las siguientes semanas. En casa era fácil, porque mami le daba frutas. Pero era difícil en la escuela. A la hora del almuerzo, sus amigas comían galletas, dulces y bizcochitos. Siempre querían compartir con ella. Y Josefina siempre tenía que decir que no. Mami, ayunar es tan difícil, dijo Josefina una noche después de la cena. Lo sé, dijo mami, pero hay muchas lecciones que puedes aprender del ayuno. ¿Cómo qué? Bueno, estás aprendiendo a fijarte en una meta para ti misma y a no darte por vencida. La recompensa será grandiosa al final. ¿Tendré recompensa? Sí, el Viernes Santo, justo antes del domingo de Pascua, tendrás habichuelas con dulce, tu postre favorito. La mirada de Josefina se iluminó. ¿Habichuelas con dulce? ¡Qué rico! Pero, mami, ¿por qué solo comemos las habichuelas en la Pascua? Es tradición, mija, lo que siempre hemos hecho. Ahora te toca a ti llevar adelante la tradición. ¿Qué quieres decir? Este año, como estás trabajando muy duro para cumplir tu meta, te voy a enseñar cómo hacer el postre de habichuelas con dulce. ¿De verdad? ¡Gracias! Josefina sabía que esto era algo grande. Mami siempre decía que ella era muy joven para estar cerca de la estufa. Aprender a hacer el postre significaba que estaba creciendo. Ese jueves en la noche, Josefina y mami empezaron los preparativos. Primero, separaron y lavaron las habichuelas rojas. Luego, vertieron las habichuelas en un tazón gigante. ¡Clic, clac! Lo llenaron de agua tibia. ¡Swish, swish! Josefina metió sus manos en el tazón y hizo un remolino con las habichuelas. Estas se sentían como piedrecitas pequeñas en sus dedos. Mami coló las habichuelas y llenó el tazón con agua de nuevo. Dijo, ahora tenemos que remojar las habichuelas toda la noche. Al día siguiente, Josefina despertó, corrió hacia la cocina y preguntó, ¿ya se terminaron de remojar las habichuelas? Sí, ahora tenemos que hervirlas, dijo mami. Josefina se quedó parada en la cocina mirando la olla en la estufa. Mija, el que espera, desespera. Ve a jugar. Yo te llamo cuando estén listas. Josefina no se movió. Quería estar ahí en todo momento. Sonó el timbre y tía Yesenia, tía Xiomara y abuela entraron cargando grandes bolsas de comida. ¡Hola!, dijo abuela mientras abrazó a Josefina. Bendición, abuela. ¿Sabes que estoy ayudando a hacer las habichuelas con dulce este año? Y sé que van a estar deliciosas, porque no he comido dulces en mucho tiempo. ¿Puedes creer que prometí no comer azúcar por 40 días y 40 noches? Lo creo. Y por eso estas habichuelas con dulce van a saber aún más dulces, porque la estás haciendo con tanto amor. En la cocina, mami puso un merengue y empezaron a bailar. ¡Sas, sas, sas! Nuez moscada, vainilla, canela y sal, dijo tía Xiomara, espolvoreando los ingredientes en la olla. ¡Corta, corta, corta! Aquí vienen las batatas, dijo tía Yesenia, cortando al ritmo de las congas. ¡Tap, tap, tap! No olvidemos las latas de leche evaporada, condensada y de coco, dijo mami, golpeando las latas contra el mostrador. Abuela bajó la música y empezó a contar una historia. Cuando yo era una jovencita en la isla, no teníamos una estufa dentro de la casa. Cocinábamos las habichuelas afuera, en una estufa grande llamada un fogón. Y removíamos las habichuelas con palos. ¿Usaban palos?, preguntó Josefina. Sí, así lo hacíamos, dijo abuela. Para entonces, ya la olla en la estufa estaba burbujeando y resonando fuertemente. ¡Plop, plop! El agua caliente siseaba y salpicaba en la estufa. El vapor subía al techo. ¿Ya están listas las habichuelas?, preguntó Josefina. Mami sacó unas cuantas habichuelas con una cuchara y las apretó. Estaban blanditas. Sí, ahora las dejamos enfriar y las ponemos en la licuadora. Una vez que las habichuelas se enfriaron, se licuaron y se pusieron de vuelta en la olla, mami y Josefina esperaron que volvieran a hervir. Dijo mami al oler las habichuelas. Esto me recuerda a los abrazos de papá y cómo me cargaba sobre su regazo y me daba habichuelas los domingos de Pascua. Josefina inhaló el dulce aroma y dijo, esto me recuerda a todos los postres del mundo que no he comido en casi 40 días y 40 noches. Todos se rieron. Josefina agregó las batatas, las pasas y la sal. El aroma de la canela y el azúcar salía de la olla y perfumaba el aire. Dijo, ahora huele a amor y a felicidad aquí adentro. Ahí fue cuando abuela removió las habichuelas, las probó y dijo, ya están listas. De hecho, este es la mejor olla de habichuelas con dulce que he probado en toda mi vida. Abuela le gruñó un ojo a Josefina. Josefina se sonró. Esa noche, los primos, tías, tíos y amigos de Josefina fueron a su casa a disfrutar de las habichuelas dulces de Josefina. Tía Xiomara y tía Yesenia repartieron casabe y galletitas de leche entre todos. Todos, menos Josefina, empezaron a comer. Después de unas cuantas cucharadas, papi levantó la mirada de su tazón y preguntó, ¿quién hizo estas habichuelas con dulce? Están deliciosas. Puedo saborear el amor. Josefina se paró, hizo una reverencia y dijo, yo las hice con mi abuela, mami y mis tías. ¡Qué maravilla! ¿Dónde está tu tazón? ¿No vas a comer? No, tengo que esperar hasta el domingo de Pascua, cuando se acabe mi ayuno. Pero está bien, porque a mí me gustan mis habichuelas con dulce servidas frías. Esa noche casi todos se sirvieron 2 veces de las habichuelas de Josefina. Al llenarse el cuarto de música y risas y el aire con olor a canela dulce y azúcar, Josefina no se sentía triste por no estar comiendo su postre. Su corazón estaba lleno de alegría porque veía lo feliz que estaban todos, comiendo las habichuelas que ella hizo con amor. Ese era el más dulce de los sentimientos. Thank you, gracias. Thank you, gracias. You're muted. Ahí va.
All right. I think I appreciate the Spanish a little bit more.
Okay.
It is a Latino story to be told in, in Spanish, but bilingual is definitely excellent for all of the parents that have bilingual kids like I do and you. I'm pretty sure your daughter is out there mixing all her Spanish with her English.
Oh, she started to. Yes, she started to. Now that she's in school and all the kids around her speak English, now she's,
She's probably correcting them in Spanish. She se les sale español.
All the things. Sí.
Judy also said that she loves the English Spanish on each page. Does anyone have any questions before we end this conversation with Jasmine? We definitely encourage you all to go out there and purchase the book, even though Jasmine read the entire book to y'all. Go purchase this book, have it as part of your collection, read it as a bedtime story, share it with your teachers.
I will also say a special part of the book is the recipe is in the back.
So now you go make your habichuela con dulce and tag Jasmine.
Yes, do make habichuelas and tag me, please.
I've never made, yo nada más silbo de lambona. Yo nunca he hecho habichuela con dulce.
Como escribí el libro, y nunca la había hecho. When I wrote the book, I had never made them. So I was like, I can't be an imposter. I need to make these habichuelas before this book comes out.
During that time, I just be asking which of my tias have made them para yo pasar por su casa and grab my little bit and take it home.
No, I learned. I made them.
Participation.
Yeah, I've made them twice now. The first time was with my mom, and I mostly just watched. And, I would ask, I'm like, pues, ¿cuánto de esto? ¿Cuánta taza? ¿Cuánta? Yo no sé, un poquito, un chin, tú le echas, sí, lo pruebo.
Oh, yeah. They don't give out real recipes. De que tú vas a ver cuando la habichuela empiece
así.
And we're like,
le pones sal.
I'm like, I need this. I need like written recipes that I could follow.
Yeah,
And I remember when I started cooking, I would call my mom and y yo lo anotaba because I was like, de que échale un chin de sal. But what's un chin? Are you talking about a teaspoon? Are you?
A tablespoon? What are we doing here?
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. And then I didn't realize how laborious it was because you have to drain them, right? You have to drain the habichuelas, and that's like a whole process.
Que tú no te estás comiendo los granos. Es la crema.
No, la crema. Yeah, so, it's like a whole process.
There you go.
Yeah, last year I made them. Lupe and I made them. I made them myself, and the thing is too is like you can't make like una ollita. You got to make it's like a whole. Es una.
Yeah. Did you share them with your neighbors, Jasmine?
I did it actually. I ended up freezing them, and then I had to throw some of them out because I was like, ya esto se dañó. Yo no sé qué hacer con esto. They came out okay. They were a little too. Creo que le eché mucha leche de coco. So it was like a little too like heavy on the leche de coco, and they weren't as like thick as my mom makes them, but they weren't bad for my first time. I also
you got it.
Yeah, they also weren't thick because I don't really like batatas. I don't like sweet potatoes, so no le eché batata. I didn't put the sweet potatoes in it, so that helps it like make it thicker, you know. And I don't like raisins. I don't put raisins in my.
You fix it. You eat it how you think it feels. It tastes good to you.
Yeah. I'm gonna try again this Easter. Okay.
Iradia said that the habichuelas are fine. They never go bad in the freezer. Just add a little milk when you warm them up. What's a little milk, Iradia? Una cucharada de milk or a teaspoon, un vaso, medio vaso.
She's saying un ching over there in the video. She's like,
look, Iradia's like, that's the Dominican translation of un ching.
Yeah. Well, it's just like when you go to the island and you ask for directions, you're like, dobla pa allá y ven pa acá.
Girl, I was in DR this summer, and there was one point that we got lost in Puerto Plata, and nobody in that car wanted to ask for directions. And then at one point, I just yelled out the window, ¿Dónde que queda esto? And they were like, mira, cuando tú llegas a la luz, dobla a la derecha, en la segunda cuadra. And I'm just like, what happened to the street names?
There are no street names. No. At least you got izquierda.
I'm here. I'm not from here. I need street signs.
At least you got turn left and right. Usually they're just like, go this way and turn that way and go up.
En la mata de mango que queda allí en la casa azul, qué sé yo qué, a una izquierda, y tú vas a ver a fulano, pregúntale y dile que yo te mandé, qué sé yo qué.
El que está con los plátanos, el que está vendiendo plátano.
El que está vendiendo plátano adelante. I don't know if that's just us or if that happens in other Latino countries, because we be suffering sometimes. De que doblan el picapollo, exactly, el picapollo. And there's a picapollo on every corner.
In every corner.
Yes, for real. You see, this is what happens when you talk about a Dominican book. We're all relating over here. We all know what we're talking about.
That's so true. That's another book right there, man. Directions, or just like, we got lost on the island. The kid and his parents are just driving around.
We need a book on the history of the picapollo.
There you go.
Here, you buy, it's just chicken. It's just fried chicken and fries. But in DR, it has a whole other name. What does that mean? Where does that come from, right? Josefina's Picapollo. Yeah. We would definitely buy that book.
I gotta learn more. I gotta go back.
Yes, vayan a comprar el libro. Go order your book on the Word Up Books website, or go in person and get yourself a copy. Christmas is coming. If you have any little girl in your family who hasn't seen herself on the cover of a book, definitely give her this gift. I have a little cousin that's darker than myself. She's she's dark Dominican, but she's also mixed with African Togo, and her mom is Dominican, and she's never seen herself on book covers. So every time she comes here, I have like a collection of books, and I'm like, mira, this is for you. Le compré una muñequita that looked just like her at Word Up the other week. I was like, oh, this is cute. Cuando ella ven aquí, the little girl has the hair like her, la muñequita, because it's so important. And I'm just like, young. We need to lift the self-esteem of our kids. Sometimes we think that books don't matter, like seeing yourself in book covers. I certainly didn't think about it till I was much older, right? Even I read The Babysitter's Club and Nancy Drew, and these are all white girls, right? I think The Babysitter's Club didn't have a morenita till I don't know what series.
Yeah, I was late in the series.
Right? And it never occurred to me that I wasn't relating to these stories until I started writing my own. And then I was like, oh, espérate. You know, and then you start, you know, concientizándote and realizing, oh, but we're not on book covers and we're not, you know, the main characters in these books that we're reading. And that's when we need to do the work and make sure that, you know, we share these with our kids, with our students, with our neighbors' kids, so that everyone deserves to see themselves and represented in what we read.
100%. Yeah, and then that's why I wrote it. I mean, my, you know, Luz Maria isn't, you know, sort of like a Black Dominican girl, but her cousins are, and so many of my former students, and just like all of them, you know, these stories are important, you know, for them to see themselves represented. And it's necessary. It's necessary. And it's something that, like you said, whiteness sort of became the default, and we just assumed that all characters looked that way and not the way we look. And now, you know, it's time to change that narrative. So
does Luz Maria want to write?
I think she's more on the performer side. Ella es bien dramática. She's very like, she has all the facial expressions, and she's very,
that's a Dominican
expressive.
That's in her DNA.
She's very expressive. She loves to dance. And,
maybe she'll go your theater route.
Maybe I'm open to whatever she wants, but she is a storyteller like her father and I. She tiene mucho cuento que contar. Like she's always talking. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Carolina says from Facebook, Arisleida Almonte, her daughter Jade says that she loves the book a lot, and she is 5 years old. See,
thank you.
That's what we all want to hear, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I think we're gonna end the conversation now, right? Thank you everyone for joining us today, for joining us in this reading of Jasmine's Josefina's Habichuelas. Please go out and support the book. And if you don't buy it, share it on your social media so that other people can see it and know of this book and perhaps buy it themselves. It's so important to continue sharing our stories. It's not that easy to get our stories published. So when we do publish them, we need to celebrate our authors, celebrate these books, and buy them in bulk. I'm gonna do a giveaway, so we end up buying like 5 copies of the book and give them away via Dominican Writers platform. So subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on social media so you can find out more about the giveaway. I don't know if I could get them signed. Do you send signed copies to Word Up or
I can ask Marina at Arte Publico. If not, I can go in, because the publishing house is in Houston, so I can always go in and sign before they send them off. So
and your book is also included in our book box.
Yay!
I forget to mention that we have a Dominican book box.
Yes.
Everyone, and it's for children's literature. It only includes Dominican books, and Jasmine's Josefina's Habichuelas is one of the books included in the box. You could go to Dominican Writers Instagram account, tap on the link, or send me a DM, or email us through our website, and I will share the link so that you could purchase the book box. You get 4 titles, and it is the perfect gift to introduce your children to Dominican books and not have them read Dominican books at 21 like I did. Okay. So the earlier we expose our children to our books, you know, the faster they feel identified with what they're reading. So
yeah,
that's another option for you to buy the book. I think I'm going to leave a box at Word Up because I have the boxes here. I just haven't packed them and dropped them off, but I should be doing that soon. So, all right.
Thank you all so much.
Have a wonderful Saturday. And enjoy it. Continue enjoying this book and sharing it. And see you next time.
Thank you all.
Bye, Jasmine.
Bye.